Hi, thanks for cooking with Andrea. I'm going to be making a meatloaf today. 2 pounds of ground beef, some good veggies, cheese, and other good stuff here. So thanks again. If you do like what we're cooking today, please like and subscribe as well. So let's get started. First of all, I have 2 pounds of ground beef. A little bit on the fattier side today just because I'm making meatloaf. I have 2 eggs. I'll cut a medium onion and a medium bell pepper. I also will be adding to the dish. This is a good thing to use, especially if you're not used to making meatloaf or you haven't decided what flavors that you really personally like. I use 3 tablespoons of this hamburger seasoning. I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of parsley. I am going to use 1 tablespoon of lemon pepper, which happens to be my favorite, and I'll use a half a cup of breadcrumbs. I will also take and use a Colby Jack cheddar mixture, and it'll be about a cup and a half. So let's get started with the meatloaf. Got the eggs. I'm going to crack them both. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add real evenly, if I can, all across my meatloaf, the hamburger seasoning. I want it to get in everywhere. Seems like it's a lot, but it really isn't. Not for a little bit over 2 pounds of hamburger. It's going to season it really good. You do not want to eat bland meatloaf. There's nothing worse than bland meatloaf. And if you think it's too much seasoning, you can always adjust it to fit your taste buds. Personally, when I make meatloaf, it depends on how I feel. I use different ingredients, but this is my go-to ingredient. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my breadcrumbs. And this is a very, very, very nice recipe to make. It's very easy. Anybody can do it. I'm going to move my cheese all around. Don't spill your cheese on the counter like I just did. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my hands. The best way to mix a meatloaf is with your hands, because you do not want to over mix the meatloaf, but you do want to incorporate all the goodness. So just keep creating the goodness here as you're mixing together, and it will all form real well. Now I have my oven heated to 350. It's been that way for about 15 minutes now. It's going to be nice and hot when we put this in here. So that'll be very nice. And then I will also cook it for anywhere 40 minutes to an hour. I go through phases where I don't like my meatloaf cooked eternally so well done. Also, sometimes what I do is I take whatever we don't eat, I freeze and label it, and then what I'll do is make a nice meatloaf sandwich at a later date. One of the things you're going to realize cooking with me is I will usually make more food than I need because I want to freeze it. I want to have like a fresh frozen meal versus I'm going to get a TV dinner or I have to sit here and make it and then wait for it. So I do a lot of cooking like that. Like when I make beans and things like that, I make bags, pounds. I make about 2 pounds at least, 2 to 6 pounds at this point in time. Well, my hamburger is mixed perfectly. You can see the cheese, the seasons, and we are ready to roll this thing out. I am going to go over there, wash my hands. And then the interesting thing is I'm going to be rolling my meatloaf into tin foil, and it's going to look like a jelly roll. This is how I'm going to fill my center. And that is the way I make meatloaf 95% of the time. Every once in a while I'll go back to traditional, where I go ahead and I just put it in a loaf pan and just bake it off. But today I'm going to show you how to do my jelly roll. So I'm going to take my seasons, put them over there now that I've showed you. Get my tin foil. these wonderful onions and bell peppers are going to go in the center. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move that so you guys can see it. Let's dig him out of there. So basically, I'm just going to flatten this out a little bit, and I want to go more from one end to the other versus width, because what I'm going to do is end up rolling this kind of like a jelly roll, and that's how I'm going to cook in the oven. The reason I do that is earlier I had said, do not buy too lean of a hamburger meat for your meatloaf, because you know the fat is flavor. You don't want too much, so I don't want my meatloaf just resting in oil, but what you want is some flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this up, and I'm going to put slits in the bottom so that you guys can see how the grease will drain out and my meatloaf is not sitting. Basically, I'm just going to put some onion, and I am going to just brush a little bit more so I can really get around this, and I am going to put some bell pepper. I personally do not care for bell peppers and onions like this. My family does. That's why I put them in the middle, so that my family has a nice veg to go with their meatloaf, and we can all sit down and eat it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lemon pepper, and I'm just going to sprinkle it all over. And like I said, you use your eye and see what you would like to use for yours. So what I'm going to do is take this, and I am going to go like this, and I'm going to take, and I'm going to squeeze it right here. And this is making it do the jelly roll thing. And what you do by doing this is it seals the meat together. So what you do, curl it up like that, and then just go ahead, because what you'll do is just infuse the meat together. So now how it's going to cook is right here in this dish. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a slit in. So there's my slits. And I usually do between 5 and 6. And then just make it sit like that, and then you'll be able to see. All the grease should totally drain in here very nicely. So now we're going to go ahead and put it in the oven for about 40 minutes. There we go, and it's on 350. We'll be right back. Thank you. Hi, welcome back. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. That's what it took to cook my meatloaf here. So now I'm going to go ahead and pick it up, because I'd like to show you the grease, how we stopped the amount of grease. It's just sitting in the amount of grease. I don't know. I am going to tilt this over, see if my cameraman can view all this grease that drained. Got a look there on how much grease drained? So that's a nice thing. We didn't have that sitting in our meatloaf. A lot of times when I make a meatloaf, it just in a meatloaf pan, I've got all this extra oil sitting there. And like I said, I actually like to use a fattier cut of meat or hamburger when I do my meatloaf. I feel that it makes it more juicy, more tender, not as grainy. Now, if it was my steak, I prefer only a good cut of steak. I prefer a filet mignon, in my personal opinion. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my knife and cut into this, because we're going to try a piece. But right here alone, you have your vegetables for your dinner, you have your meat, and then whatever else you'd like to go with it. Some rice or some boiled potatoes with maybe a little bit of gravy. Traditionally, what I do is I go ahead, cut layered on the plate, and then I'll usually do either a mashed potato or a boiled potato, and then I top mine with some brown gravy. So I've got the juice. So cutting it like this, you can see there's just a teens of red. The reason I do it this way is from here on, they're all nice and well done. I prefer my meat a little bit more like pinker or medium with my meatloaf. My steak, I would do a medium rare. So what I normally do is I would cut both ends off, serve those for dinner, and then I would go ahead and vacuum seal this in a freezer bag and keep it for a meatloaf sandwich or another night for meatloaf. Or if I use it all, the people, me and my son, we like ours more medium rare. My husband prefers his more well. So this is how I would cut and serve it to us. So it's really beautiful. Vegetables inside, great flavoring. I'm going to cut this more medium piece so that we could go ahead and try it. I'm going to go right from the bottom portion so I can see how the flavoring is. Juicy. Very nice flavoring. Perfect amount of seasoning. Onion and bell pepper. Just do it justice. It's not too done. Texture is great. Well, I want to thank you for cooking with me, Andrea. And I appreciate you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, and stay tuned for more recipes. Thank you.